In a place without human boundaries, only land, wind, and the breath of life, the rising sun illuminates the new footprints left in the dust. It is a sign of a return, a ruler, or a challenger entering the game. In this world, there are no written laws. Every living thing understands that from the moment it opens its eyes. One small mistake, and the price must be paid in blood. One right decision can decide the fate of the entire species. Here, the lion doesn't always win. The shark may run away. The elephant may be toppled. The battles are fought silently in the grass, in the air, in the water, and sometimes in silence. This is a story of unwitnessed clashes, of courage that requires no spectators, and of moments when all of nature held its breath to see who would survive. Join us on the journey, the greatest battles in the animal world. High in the Rockies, where the air is thin and the wind howls through the sheer cliffs, there is a sound that makes all living things stop. Not thunder, not the roar of a predator, but the clash of two giant horns, hard as stone and hostile. It is the sound of war between bighorn mountain goats, creatures that fight not for territory, not for food, but for something more sacred than anything else, the right to mate. This morning, a 6-year-old male, young, vigorous, and full of ambition, was finally old enough to enter the circle of those allowed to fight. But waiting for him were no novices. Today's opponent was an 8-year-old male, larger, tougher, and had survived hundreds of battles between rock and snow. But to initiate this clash, it takes more than a glance. The young male began to provoke, moving his body, shaking his head, pawing the ground, then licking his lips and sticking out his tongue as if mocking. It was a wordless language, a challenge sent directly to the older opponent. The 8-year-old male turned his head as if to walk away. But this was not a sign of surrender. It was a defensive stance called low stretch, in which the head and neck are lowered, the back is arched, and the message is clear. If you want to try, come here and try. Then the moment of waiting came. The two muscular bodies slammed into each other at over 20 miles per hour, the impact carrying enough force to kill a human instantly. But both were designed to survive such a fight. Two thick layers of armor-like skulls encased their brains, absorbing much of the impact, allowing them to fight, and fight, without falling. No groans, no blood, only the sound of horns exploding across the Rocky Mountains like hammers hitting anvils. Over and over again, dozens of fiery headbutts in the freezing air. Each time, their entire bodies shook, and the ground beneath their feet echoed like ancient war drums. The fight lasted for hours. No one knows when it will end. No one knows who will be the last one standing. But everyone knows. The winner will take the glory approach the children, pass on the strongest bloodline. The loser will retreat, not with mortal wounds, but with damaged pride. At the boundary between the sky and the cliff, each collision is not just a fight, but an affirmation of power, bravery, and survival instinct. And so, the explosions in the wilderness will continue, year after year, as an indispensable part of the wild symphony of American nature. Along the banks of the Luangwa River, amid the dry scrub and barren sandbanks, a group of baboons dominates the region's most fertile territory. They are known as the River Troop, a large, united, resource-rich group that is a constant target for outsiders. Strange males lurk at the edges of their territory, watching, waiting. They are not looking for food. They are looking for opportunity, a chance to overthrow a king and change the fate of an entire troop. And then, a strange shadow appeared. A scream rang out. From the trees, from the bushes, from the midst of the herd, warning cries spread like waves. A battle for power was beginning, and it would not be fought silently. The first fight was a show of force. Fangs bared, growls hissed through the tense air. The challenger was leaner, younger, and alone, but not lacking in courage. The males in the pack were larger, but disorganized. They were not well coordinated, had no common strategy, and the atmosphere was tenuous. A fight that lasted for days could erupt over a misplaced glance or a step too close. Then tragedy struck. The old king was still there, unbroken, but the price had been paid in blood. In the chaos, a small life had been taken. A baby monkey, barely grown, had died. The intruder may have killed it intentionally, as a way to weaken the opponent's spirit, or perhaps not. In the world of baboons, children are often abused as biological shields. No one dares attack someone holding a baby. But in the hands of a predator, that innocence is just a tool, and the weak creatures become victims of cold calculations of power. A young male, 8 years old, stood frozen in the middle of the pack. He was the dead boy's older brother. He let out a cry, not of territory or status, but of loss. The other males approached, slowly, not threateningly, but sympathetically. They did not speak, but with their eyes, with their soft hisses, with their hands on the young male's back and shoulders, they tried to soothe the pain that was churning in his heart. Two held him tight, not to control him, but to prevent him from being overwhelmed by his anger. In the wild, power is won with fangs and blood, but behind the ferocious shell, there are sometimes moments of humanity where loss is felt and pain is shared in silence. The sun scorched the vast grasslands as if it were melting the earth. The sunlight not only seared the flesh, but also boiled the souls that were overflowing with instinct. And amid this fiery heat, the bison, the giants of the North American prairie, began to move. Mating season has arrived. It wasn't the rain, it wasn't the wolves, it was the testosterone that roiled the valley. As the hormone levels doubled, the normally docile males became easily enraged. One wrong look, one wrong footstep, and a fight could break out in an instant. The valley was no longer a place of rest. It had become an arena where heavy breathing echoed, where rocks were thrown up with every stomp, and where giants, each weighing a ton, charged at each other like prehistoric chariots. Among them, there was one dominant male, a ruler. With his curved horns, his bulging muscles, and his watchful eyes, he had earned his place as the leader of the pack. But that title did not come with peace. He did not control the females. The females did not belong to him. They were free individuals and would mate with the strongest when they were ready. And that is the problem. There are too many females in ovulation. To maintain his dominance, the male must fight constantly, day by day, hour by hour, with every challenger that appears. Outsiders approach quietly, watch in silence, wait for a moment of weakness to strike. Each of them is eager to mow the grass underfoot of the current king. And to maintain this throne, the dominant male must stop them all. It won battle after battle. Most of the time, a single charge was enough to send its opponents fleeing. But its power was not limitless. Day after day, the sun burned relentlessly. Battles were no longer tests of physical strength, but a race against time. As the race dragged on for weeks, the alpha male grew weary. He stopped eating as he used to, for every time he bent his head to graze, another predator was waiting to challenge him. Sleep was fitful. His huge body now trembled under his weight. A month passed. It succeeded in maintaining its position, but at the cost of depleted vitality. In just a few weeks, he lost more than 200 pounds. His legs shook. His breathing was labored. A gust of wind was enough to send him reeling. Then there comes a time when it can no longer stand. The male fell, not from a fatal blow, but from the silent ravages of time and exhaustion. To the outside world, death was the end, but to nature, it was only the beginning. The massive body would not go to waste. It became a source of life for other creatures. Vultures, foxes, wolves, all came to share the remains of the once king. And in the bodies of the females who conceived, their blood continued to live on, passing on its strength, its courage, and its story. In the grasslands that stretch to the horizon, young bison will grow up. One of them may have his father's eyes, or his horns, or his temper. And then, another summer, when the sun beats down on this land again, a young bison will begin its journey. Will it win? Can it endure endless battles in exchange for a brief moment of glory? Or will it follow in its father's footsteps, enter the arena, and leave in silence? The answer still lies somewhere in the grass, in the breath of the wind, and in the footsteps of the successor who is about to appear. In the golden savannas of Australia, where the wind whips through the dry grass and the sun stretches across the backs of ancient eucalypts, a form of warfare is waged, not between species, but within communities. For kangaroos, the most dangerous enemy is not predators, but each other. In this closed society, every male learns only one lesson in life if he wants to reach the top. He must learn to fight. Like legendary fighters, a kangaroo's journey begins early, when it is still in its mother's pouch. Weak kicks and clumsy collisions are the first lessons to awaken the instincts of a warrior. And when it is strong enough to step out into the world, it begins its wandering journey, not in search of food, but in search of opponents to practice with. This grassland, peaceful to outsiders, is a harsh training camp. The cubs seek to challenge anyone willing to fight, even their mothers. But not everyone welcomes such naivety. The adults have no time for jokes. For them, every move, every kick carries real consequences. And in the center of this place, a ruler stands alone. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, towering over a grown man. His muscles were well defined, and the scars beneath his fur told the tale of hundreds of fights. This was no amateur, but a true champion. But the throne always comes with challenges, and today, a new one has emerged. A rival, younger, faster, bolder, and hungry for glory. There was no whistle, there was no referee. As the two males faced off, the entire field held its breath. The females backed away, making room for a contest nature had designed for fighting giants. The fight began in silence, with only the sound of stomping feet, soft hissing, and eyes locked on each other. Then, like a flash of lightning, they charged, hind leg kicks, shoulder thrusts, claws tearing through the air, all in a wild, unpredictable rhythm. Here, there are no rules against it. Hit the eye. Okay, kick the stomach, even better. They use everything: weight, speed, skill, experience, to push each other to the limit. Every kick can break a bone. Every punch can send one running forever. And when the blood starts flowing, when the body starts shaking, just one slip can decide everything. But the champion is not easy to defeat. Minutes later, the match ended in a practiced twist. The challenger, panting, backed away. There was no finishing blow, no roar, just a final look from the victor. A reminder, this is my territory. And today, you were not enough. The dominant male turned and walked slowly across the grassland, where the sun was now soft, and the wind carried the scent of sweat, blood, and pride. The females watched, not in fear, but in awe, for in their world, strength was the only ticket to procreation. Somewhere in the bushes, the cubs are practicing again, A missed kick, a fall, then getting up again. They don't know it yet. But each fall today is a step closer to the fight of their lives. And one day, maybe next summer or a rainier year, they will enter the arena. The only question that remains is, will they become champions? Or just a forgotten name in the dust of endless war? As the fog has barely lifted from the rolling hills of southern Indiana, a deadly creature lies still amid the thick layer of last fall's rotting leaves. No movement, no sound. But that silence is not harmless. It is the perfect cover for a predator that has survived hundreds of generations of evolution, the copperhead, a species of copperhead viper with a killer instinct. But this morning, it was not alone. Curled up under a rotting carpet, 2 baby snakes huddled next to their mother. They were the last of a litter of 6, the rest likely destined for breakfast for barn owls or hawks. In the wild, survival is a cruel gamble, and only the lucky or the clever make it to the next day. Unlike most snakes, copperheads don't lay eggs, but give birth directly to their young. The little creatures emerge without a shell, ready to hunt after just a few short days. And they have a strange secret weapon, a bright yellow tail that resembles a plump caterpillar. To a frog or lizard, it's a tasty treat. But when they lunge for a bite, the only thing they get in return is a pair of venomous fangs waiting behind them. Soon, the mother snakes will leave. And when the first snows of the season begin to fall, they will have to learn to survive on their own. But this morning, that silence was broken. From the edge of the forest, another creature was creeping in. Not a classic predator, but a female opossum. She had been scurrying around all night, digging for worms and grubs. Autumn was a time of urgency. Her body needed fat to prepare for the harsh winter ahead. With its shaggy gray fur and sluggish gait, she didn't look like much of a warrior, but that appearance fooled more species than you might think. When it unexpectedly encountered the copperhead family, the ground froze. A sharp, warning hiss from the mother snake, her head raised high above the leaves, eyes fixed on the stranger. In most cases, this encounter would have ended in a panicked retreat. No one dared to challenge a venomous snake when it was protecting its young. But opossums are not like the others. Within that tiny body lies a formidable superpower resistance to venom. Not a myth, but a biological fact. The opossum has a rare biological mechanism that makes it immune to the venom of many snakes, including the copperhead. Not only does it survive, but it has even hunted these snakes for meals. The opossum, however, was not reckless. The copperhead's bite was still excruciatingly painful, though not fatal. And with its belly full of worms and grubs, it did not need to risk it. After a few seconds of staring, the opossum backed away slightly. No scream, no chase. It turned and walked away, continuing to rummage through the dirt for more easily digestible food. And so, 2 parallel worlds passed each other, without fighting, without bloodshed, but leaving behind an undercurrent of instinct and vigilance. For the 2 young snakes, the encounter was a vital lesson. Fighting is not always necessary. Sometimes, just staying close to their mother is enough to escape a stronger enemy. The mother snake then slowly crawls north toward her traditional wintering grounds. Over the next few days, she will lead her young to a cave or tree hollow, where dozens of other snake species share a winter-long sleep. And when spring awakens, the first rays of sunlight will wake them up again, bringing the cycle of hunting and survival back to life. But at this moment, under the layer of rotting leaves scattered by the autumn wind, all is just waiting, waiting for the cold, waiting for maturity, and waiting for the moment when those little ones step out of their mother's shadow to begin their journey of solitary survival in an unforgiving world. As the birdsong soars through the damp canopy of the Australian rainforest, and the first rains of the season linger on the leaves, a strange creature quietly awakens from its long, dry slumber. It is the fan-necked lizard, a small warrior with a frilly dragon mane around its neck, both a weapon of intimidation and a mask of survival. During the dry season, when the heat seemed to burn everything and food became scarce, it lived in a state of limbo, half awake, half asleep, sparing every heartbeat, every movement, as if drifting in its dream. But the first rain of the season has just fallen. The southern monsoon brings not only water to the parched land, but also life. Insects swarm the sky, vegetation awakens, and the predatory instinct returns to every cell. For the spread-necked lizard, this is a season of opportunity, a brief window to survive, reproduce, and live a full year in just a few months. It must eat, run, and fight, as if there were no tomorrow. But it is not the only one awakened. From under the layer of rotten leaves, a black-headed python glided silently. No sound, no hurry. Its cold eyes locked on its target, the splay-necked warrior that had just left its hiding place. With its length and muscular strength, the python did not need agility, only a moment of vulnerability to deliver the killing blow. When their eyes met, the lizard spread its neck, its mane standing upright like an angry flower, hissing warning sounds. It was a game of intimidation, hoping to fool its enemy into thinking it was bigger and more dangerous than it was. But with pythons, that trick no longer works. There was only one choice left: run, and so it shot off. Not a dodge, but a master sprint. The splay-necked lizard doesn't just run, it charges on its hind legs, its body lifted off the ground, like a prehistoric creature across the forest floor. It can reach speeds of up to 10 miles per hour, too fast for any snake to catch. The python let out a short hiss, then slowly slithered into the darkness. The rain still falls softly through the leaves. And in the short time between the two harsh seasons, life explodes, fierce, hasty, but also breathtakingly beautiful. The spread-necked lizard lives as if there is no tomorrow, because it knows time is not on its side. In a world where survival is a never-ending race, being 1 second slower could mean death. But today, with courage and speed, it has regained its life, at least for one more day. And somewhere, under the still drenched forest canopy, the predator is waiting for the next encounter. Dawn had just touched the tall grasses of the South American savanna. Birds sang their gossamer songs, and the wind blew through the morning mist on the trees. But below ground, where the shadows were crisscrossed by the early morning sun, a silent battle was waiting to break out. A venomous snake slithered across the barren land, its body gliding lightly between rocks and grass, like an undercurrent of danger. It did not hunt, it sought shelter. But it was not alone. A few paces away, a predator was watching, with long legs like a crane, a slender but sturdy body. The seriema, a rare bird of prey, stood motionless, its eyes locked on its target. It had no talons like an eagle, no strength like a falcon, but in its silence was cold calculation and a killing technique full of surprise. Just one wrong step, and that venom will end it all. The snake hissed, turned its head, and charged straight at the intruder. But the seriema had thought ahead. It spread its wings, not to fly, but to confuse its opponent. In the moment the snake staggered, the bird leaped, avoiding the fatal bite, and landed with the first kick right on target. The snake struggled. This was no ordinary prey. It fought to survive, twisting and springing forward. But Serena did not back down. With young waiting to be raised in the nest, every meal was a gamble. and today it was betting its life. After a few blows, Seriema paused. It was not a reckless animal. With the snake tired, it did not rush to finish. Instead, it used a strange tactic that no other bird of prey used, catching the snake in its beak, throwing it into the air, and slamming it into the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. No need for sharp claws. Gravity and precision are the series' most fearsome weapons. When the last snake lay still, the seriema made no triumphant display. It simply crouched down, took its prey in its mouth, and walked silently back to its nest. Infant calls rang out in the bushes, small beaks waiting for a meal. And the mother bird, with her long legs and the heart of a killer, had done her job. In the wild, death has no funeral, but here, every beat of the wings, every strike to the ground, is an ancient ritual of survival. A bird that cannot fly high, has no fiery claws, has become the one to kill the most dangerous creatures on the ground. Seriemas. The name sounds as light as a breeze, but is a nightmare for venomous creatures. On the edge of the boreal forest, where the thaw has given way to the first greens of spring, a male bear has spent the past few weeks hunkering down to feed and recover from the long winter hibernation. His body has grown heavy, and his muscles have bulged back, but now his hunger has subsided, and another urge has begun to take hold. Strong, instinctive, and irresistible to find a mate. For brown bears, reproduction is more than just a biological act. It's a fierce competition that lasts for weeks. And before passing on their powerful genes to the next generation, males must first overcome an obstacle other males with similar aspirations. Fights between male bears are not always noisy. They are usually chases that last for miles, with them standing on 2 legs, growling, and assessing. But when tensions reach a boiling point, huge slaps can tear flesh. Blood is spilled, and growls echo through the forest. The scars left behind are not only a testament to the fight, but also a medal of bravery. But if you think fighting is the hardest part, you're not. Even if he outsmarts his rivals, the male bears still face an even bigger challenge: the cold indifference of females. A female may be completely uninterested, even walking away without so much as a glance, and nothing embarrasses a 600-pound giant more than rejection. The male follows the scent on the wind, hoping for better luck next time. Mating season lasts only from April to June, during which time both males and females can mate with many different partners. It is a repeated gamble, where each approach is a trial, each pairing a hope. Under the dense forest shade, the male bear continues his journey, not only to extend his bloodline, but also to affirm that in this vast nature, he deserves to be chosen. How many more meetings are waiting ahead? How many blows? How many rejections? Only time and the soon-to-be-ending breeding season will tell, while the forest, as always, keeps its secrets deep within. In a quiet stretch of crocodile-infested river, where the water reflects the scorching sun and the mud cracks underfoot, a small couple has made their home here. It seems reckless, even crazy, because just a few steps away from their nest is a giant clutch of eggs from a mature female crocodile. But for the diops, this is the perfect strategic position. Because when the most dangerous creature in the land is protecting its young, all other predators stay away. No one dares to go near a crocodile guarding its nest, and its presence creates a safety zone for other small creatures. The crocodile knew full well that the pair were no threat. He ignored them, not even a glance. But the diops could not remain completely calm. They were alert, trembling with every movement, but they did not leave. For in that nest were their eggs, the future of their race, the dream that would be passed down through the generations. Then the real threat emerged, not from the water, but from the bushes. The monitor lizard, an expert egg thief, a notorious intruder in the wild. Unlike a cat stalking a mouse, the monitor lizard charged forward aggressively, armed with razor-sharp claws, deadly teeth, and a whip-like tail, capable of tearing apart any bird's nest in seconds. But the diop pair did not run away. They joined forces, spreading their wings, revealing their sharply contrasting black and white feathers, a visual tactic designed by nature to confuse their predators. They scream, spread their wings, and charge forward like the last defenders of a fortress. They look like two feathered spears ready to stab their enemies if need be. The diop's anger was not a senseless anger, but a parental anger. The monitor, bold as it was, knew that the risk wasn't worth it. It growled softly, turned, and walked away, leaving behind two shaken but defiant birds and a nest of eggs still intact. Today's victory is temporary. Mother bird knows well the thief will return, maybe tomorrow afternoon or early the next morning. But until then, the little mother will watch every sound, every wind, every crack in the silence, to keep this little nest as if it were keeping every last beat of life. In a place where crocodiles are neighbors, nothing is easy. But with instinct, motherly love, and courage, the diop birds have proven one thing: the strong are not always the big ones, but the ones who refuse to give up. The battles we have just witnessed are but a tiny part of the vast symphony of nature. Somewhere out there, at this very moment, one creature is retreating into silence. Another is facing its first test, and another, for the first time, is stepping out from the shadow of the stronger. Nature never sleeps. It changes every minute, every breath. The battles continue, even without the cameras. Today's underdogs can become tomorrow's legends. The question is, do we, humans, still have enough patience to observe, to learn, and to understand the true meaning of those wars? Perhaps nature is still whispering the answer, even when we have stepped away from the screen.